But if you just listen and take notes, you will probably not retain anything. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emily and I create Christ-centered conversations about topics missing from mainstream messages. So if that's your cup of tea, make sure to subscribe. And while you're at it, if you want to follow along with the behind the scenes stuff of my life, you can follow me on my Instagram, which will be linked down in the description box below. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So today is going to be a different video because I'm not talking about something that is specifically Christian. I'm talking about some college stuff. So we're going to be talking about 5 habits of successful students. So I'm going into my junior year at college. I'm not perfect at all these things. These are just some things that I have learned over the years of how to succeed in school. And a little bonus at the end, we'll talk about really what actually is success. So, number 1, very simply, what I do is when I get my syllabi, I feel like such a nerd whenever I say syllabi, but it sounds weird to say syllabuses. Whatever, when I get my syllabi, I put them all into my calendar. So for me, I use just like whatever, my Apple calendar that links to my Mac and to my phone, and I just put them at the top in a category called assignments. So I just write math and then I do a little dash and I say assignment 1 or whatever it is, read this chapter. And this takes about an hour at the beginning of the semester, but I do it for every single class. So then I know I'm never missing an assignment because I just put literally the entire syllabus into my calendar. And so every morning I can wake up and I can say, what is due today? Or I can look ahead at my week, which is usually what I do, and say, okay, I need to do this by this day and whatever. And then I can plan it. So I know that I'm never missing an assignment. That might not work perfectly for everybody. Some people prefer paper, what are they even called? Planners. Some people prefer paper planners. I myself was one of those people until I got to college and realized that it just didn't work for me anymore. But whatever it is that you use to organize the rest of your life, I find that it's really helpful to also put assignments and stuff into that too. My friend uses Notion and just puts all of her assignments in and color codes them, which does take a little more time, and which is why I've never been able to do it, but it totally works for her. So just figure out how to do it for you, but I would really recommend taking your syllabi and somehow making sure that you have one area where you can look at and say, what's due today? What are all the assignments that I have to do? That's super helpful. The second thing is to ask questions. Ask questions to yourself, ask questions to your teacher, ask questions to your friends. That is just like scientifically speaking, when we're talking about how to retain information, asking questions and elaborating on the things that you've learned. So say you learn a new thing, think about it and try to expand it. So whether or not it's necessarily true, when you do that work for yourself, you'll remember it far easier. For example, okay, so say you're in a psychology class and you're learning about personalities. I don't know if you do that in a psychology class. I haven't taken a psychology class yet, but say you're learning about personalities in a psychology class. Instead of just saying like, okay, these are all the personalities, you can elaborate on that and say, who do I think that I know that has these personalities? What kind of personality do I have? What kind of personalities would work together and would help each other out and would be complementary? What personalities do I think would clash a little bit more? And none of these things have to actually be right. Like you wouldn't write them in an essay or something, but when you take like literally 5 seconds and think about like, what does this actually mean? Or if you don't know what it actually means, like ask a question, even if it's not directly related. This is the thing, everyone feels like they have to ask questions that are so perfectly articulated, but you don't. As long as you're asking a question that expands what you're talking about, it's going to be so much more easy to remember what you were talking about if you actually asked a question about it. Or if you have friends in that class, be like, what'd you think about this? I didn't get this. I thought this was really cool. Literally, it takes 15 seconds. Just like say a question or make a statement about something. But if you just listen and take notes, you will probably not retain anything. And that's just, statistically speaking, that's kind of how it works. Number 3, make a priorities list and block off time for each priority. So this does not necessarily need to be school related, but of course school is going to be part of your priorities, so it falls under what it means to be a successful student. And part of being a successful student, why can't I say that word? Part of what it takes to be a successful student is being able to manage all the other things around your student life. So you're not spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day doing schoolwork and no time with friends, but you're also not spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours with your friends and doing no schoolwork. There has to be some sort of balance. And so you have to say, what are my priorities? What I found for me personally, this is not prescribing anything to anyone, but for me, I found that I cannot have too many priorities going on at one time, or else I'm going to have to each of them. And I don't want to do that. So the less priorities I can have, I say, okay, I have school, I have this job, and I have my friends, and I have my boyfriend, and I have my family. And that's 5 things. Or I should probably have church on that list too. I didn't think about this before the video, but whatever. You have all of these priorities, and then you make sure that whenever those priorities come up, this thing is important to me. And so when you're looking at your week and you're saying, I don't have time for exercise, that's probably a priority for some people. You need to reorder it and say, okay, well, I need to do less time on this so that I can do this thing. And if you can block off a certain time and say, this is for this priority, you're able to stick to it more. And this, of course, this is a Christian channel, so this relates to spending time with God. That must be a priority in your life. You will fail at school if you are not making God a priority. I'll get to that a little bit later. But my point is, if you don't make time for God, you won't spend time with God. It's very simple. And so if you are a planner who likes to block out times of the day for each of the things like I do, I needed to actually say, okay, from 7 to 8 o'clock is going to be my time with the Lord, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. So and it doesn't matter when it is, it could be lunchtime, but if it's lunchtime, you need to say, nothing else comes in the way of this. If somebody asks me to lunch, I have to say, no, I can't. I have a previous priority that I've already scheduled. Number 4, brain breaks. So this is also one of those things that is just scientifically speaking, your brain processes information. It moves it from your working memory, which is what, like if you're in class learning about something, it moves it from your working memory to your long-term memory. And so if you have no breaks, if you have no time to let your brain do the work of processing the information and storing it, you won't remember anything. And so part of what this can look like, some examples, is going on a walk between classes. And you don't need to be thinking about what you're doing. The point is that your brain is not thinking about it. You're doing something with your body that makes it so that your brain can just shut off and not think about anything. Because if you use your brain all day, like doing heavy thinking, it's gonna be really difficult. So take a walk between a class. I will say technology is not necessarily the best way to do this because your brain is not getting an active break. So you might be like, oh, well, like a nice break would just be whatever, watching a TV show or something. And I don't really have much against watching TV shows and stuff, but that's not going to be the best for the specific purpose. Your body should be moving. That helps get oxygen to your brain and do all the good things. So yeah, your body should be moving and your brain should not be required to do anything. It should just have the freedom to relax and not think. For some people, this could be like hanging out with a friend and just talking about random things. It's fine, as long as you're not like thinking about whatever it was that you're supposed to be thinking about in class. Just take a brain break and take an active break, and that is going to help your brain restore and retain all this information. Number 5, this is the most important one. In order to be a successful student, you must redefine what success and failure is. The way that I've redefined this, you will not succeed if your definition for success is unattainable. I mean, that makes sense. And you will always fail if failure is this thing that just always happens. If you think success is getting all A's, you will never feel like you have succeeded, even if you get all A's. It's this goal that you've set here that you're always striving for, and there's no like intrinsic motivation or understanding of success in your own for your own person. And what I mean by that is, so for me as a Christian, success is faithfulness to God. It is nothing else. Success in school for me is not grades. It is not academic achievements. It is not leadership roles. It is faithfulness to God. If I have all A's and I am in a bunch of clubs and leading this and doing that, but I have not been faithful to God, it is pointless. I have failed. So if we redefine success and failure based on faithfulness to God, we have a lot more freedom. I talk about freedom a lot on this channel because freedom is really good. We have the freedom to succeed in the things that we do, and the things that we do become more purposeful because we're doing them out of faithfulness to God. And that's what ultimately matters. I mean, when we're talking about like big long-term stuff, it does not matter what grade you've gotten. It does not matter who you were and who you worked for and whether you were in the president's office or not. And I'm not like, that's not a dig against that either. But if you weren't faithful to God, those things don't matter. When you get to heaven, he's not going to be like, you got all A's? Awesome. It doesn't work like that. He's going to say, have you been faithful to me? And you want him to say, well done, good and faithful servant. And so you need to figure out, how do I redefine success so that my success at school and the things that I'm doing at school really is just an extension of my love for God? Because if it is not, if you're a Christian and you're going to school and you don't really have a concept of why am I doing this school thing, you'll fail. You might not fail, it might not look like you're failing, but there won't be any point. And there's nothing more annoying, for me at least, than doing something pointlessly. I mean, why go to school if there's no point, if you're not doing it for some reason? So do it for God. Make success be about faithfulness to God. Let your study be your worship. That is how you will succeed in school, and that is how you'll be a successful student. So thank you so much for watching, and good luck at school for all of you who are moving in soon. So exciting. I hope that you'll take some tips and also leave them if they don't apply to you. Whatever. These are what have worked for me. Find something that works for you too, and just remember that as long as you're faithful to God, you have been successful. Have an awesome week. Have an awesome life.